What is not true about Atlantis? The story of Atlantis begins with one man, the Greek philosopher Plato. Around 360 BCE, he wrote about a mysterious island civilization that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the area we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he described Atlantis as a powerful empire, larger than Libya and Asia combined, with a mighty navy, advanced architecture, and immense wealth. It was said to be a paradise of order and knowledge, a place where humans lived in harmony with the gods. But according to Plato, that harmony did not last. As generations passed, the people of Atlantis became greedy, prideful, and corrupt. Their moral decay angered the gods, who punished them with earthquakes and floods, swallowing the entire island in a single day and night. Here's something often overlooked. Plato never claimed to have invented this story himself. He said it came from Solon, a respected Greek statesman who had supposedly heard it from Egyptian priests during his travels. Those priests described Atlantis as a real power that existed 9,000 years before Solon's time. Far older than any known civilization. That timeline creates a huge problem. If Atlantis truly existed 9,000 years before Plato, it would predate Egypt, Mesopotamia, and even the earliest known cities by thousands of years. No archaeological record supports such an advanced culture existing that early. So, was Plato recording an ancient historical truth? Or was he using the story to send a philosophical message? A warning about the dangers of pride, greed, and human ambition? As we move forward, keep that question in mind. Because every piece of evidence that followed, every theory, every discovery, every claim, starts with this single point. A story written by a philosopher, not a historian. And that's where the mystery of Atlantis truly begins. Now that we know where the story came from, let's look at something just as important. What didn't happen? If Atlantis was truly a vast empire that ruled parts of Europe and Africa, you would expect other ancient civilizations to mention it too, right? Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, Chinese. All of them left behind records of their neighbors, allies, and enemies. Yet not one of them ever wrote a single word about Atlantis. Think about that for a moment. A civilization said to be more advanced than any other on Earth, capable of crossing oceans and waging war against Athens, simply vanishes from every historical record except Plato's writings. Doesn't that sound strange to you? Archaeologists have searched for decades, from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean, and no site has ever matched Plato's description. No ruins, no inscriptions, no traces of a culture that powerful. The time frame he gave, 9,000 years before his own era, pushes Atlantis into a period when humans were still forming small farming villages. That's thousands of years before Egypt even built its first pyramid. So, if the timeline doesn't fit, and if no other civilization ever mentioned it, then what was Plato really talking about? Could he have been describing a real place, but with exaggerated details? Or was Atlantis a symbolic story meant to show the fall of human arrogance? A warning that great power always leads to self-destruction. Before we decide, remember this. History has a strange way of mixing truth with myth. Sometimes legends are based on fragments of reality, reshaped and magnified through centuries of storytelling. In the next part, we'll see how that happened, how people took Plato's words and turned them into one of the biggest mysteries in human history. Let's move forward in time, thousands of years after Plato. His story of Atlantis could have remained just a philosophical tale, but something unexpected happened. People started to believe it was real. Ask yourself this: why do we humans always want myths to be true? Maybe it's because we don't like mysteries without answers. Maybe it's because the idea of a lost, advanced civilization feels too fascinating to ignore. Wouldn't you want to believe there's something incredible buried under the ocean? In the late 1800s, a man named Ignatius Donnelly published a book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. He claimed that all ancient civilizations, Egyptians, Mayans, Greeks, were descendants of Atlantis. To many people, it suddenly made sense. How else could distant cultures build pyramids, master astronomy, and create similar myths about floods and gods? Donnelly's book exploded in popularity, and for the first time, Atlantis was treated as history, not just philosophy. But it didn't stop there. In the early 1900s, the so-called sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce, said Atlantis used mysterious crystal energy and would rise again near the Bahamas. Later, others added their own twists: aliens, underwater technology, lost powers. The myth evolved with every generation, changing to fit whatever people wanted to believe at the time. Now, here's something for you to think about. When does a story stop being legend and start becoming belief? Could the fascination itself, the desire to find Atlantis, be what keeps the myth alive? Because, even if we can't prove it ever existed, the mystery still pulls us in, doesn't it? Deep down, we all want to think there's something hidden, something ancient, waiting to be uncovered. By now, you might be wondering, if so many people believed in Atlantis, surely someone must have found something, right? Well, not exactly. What they found were fragments, coincidences, and misunderstandings that looked convincing, until you looked closer. Let's start with one of the most famous examples. Santorini, a Greek island that suffered a massive volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE. The disaster wiped out the advanced Minoan civilization that lived there. Many experts believe this real event might have inspired Plato's story, an advanced culture destroyed by nature. The island even has ruins buried under ash, just like Pompeii. But here's the problem. The timeline doesn't fit. Plato said Atlantis sank 9,000 years before his time. The Minoans existed only about 1,000 years before him. Then there's the Azores, a group of islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Some claimed they were the mountaintops of the submerged Atlantis. Others pointed to the Caribbean, or even Antarctica, suggesting that shifting poles or rising seas could have hidden the lost city beneath the ice. And let's not forget the Richaille structure in Mauritania, the so-called Eye of the Sahara. Its circular shape perfectly matches Plato's description of Atlantis's rings, leading some to say, this must be it. But again, when scientists examined it, there were no traces of lost temples, walls, or artifacts, only natural geological formations. So, why do we keep trying to make these places fit the story? Maybe because the mystery is too tempting to let go. Maybe because, even when evidence says no, our curiosity keeps saying maybe. Think about it. How many legends survived simply because people refused to stop looking for proof? The same thing happened here. Every false discovery didn't kill the myth, it made it stronger. And that brings us to the final question. If so many theories failed, if no evidence ever proved Atlantis existed, then what keeps us so obsessed with it today? So after all this, the myths, the theories, the false discoveries, what's really not true about Atlantis? Maybe the simplest answer is this: everything we think we know about it. There are no ruins, no records, no proof of a lost super-civilization beneath the ocean. The only detailed description ever written came from one man, Plato, and even he may have meant it as a warning, not a report. But here's the interesting part. Even if Atlantis never existed, the idea of it still changed the world. It made explorers cross oceans. It inspired writers, scientists, and dreamers to look deeper into our past. And maybe that's the real power of the story. Not in what's true, but in what it makes us question. Think about it for a second. Why does the legend of Atlantis still matter to you right now? Is it because we want to believe there was once a civilization wiser than ours? Or is it because deep down we feel that something is missing from human history? Something we just can't explain yet? Maybe Plato's story wasn't about a city at all, but about us, our rise, our fall, our endless search for meaning. Whether Atlantis was real or not, the mystery forces us to keep asking questions. And perhaps that's what keeps it alive. The possibility that somewhere, hidden beneath time and ocean, there's still a piece of truth waiting to be found. So tell me, what do you think? Was Atlantis just a myth, or a forgotten truth the world was never meant to remember? So, after everything we've explored, the myths, the theories, the science, and the doubts, one question still remains. What if we're still missing something? What if the truth about Atlantis isn't lost, just waiting for the right eyes to find it? Think about it. Stories like this survive for thousands of years for a reason. Maybe not because they're true, but because they speak to something deep inside us. The need to know where we come from. The hope that there was once more to our history than we've been told. Now I want to hear from you. What do you believe? Was Atlantis just a moral story told by Plato, or could there really be ruins buried beneath the waves, somewhere we haven't looked yet? And tell me, what would you like to uncover next? Should we explore the strange circular Eye of the Sahara, the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan? Or maybe the mysterious structures hidden deep in Antarctica's ice? Leave your thoughts in the comments, share your theories, and let me know which mystery you want to dive into in the next video. Because the search doesn't end here, it's only just beginning.